Second video of Fusion, right everyone? And in the first video, if we can quickly recap what we looked at, is I kind of went through the whole interface of Fusion, right? Just kind of what's on the screen in front of you. And then I showed you how in Fusion you work in 2D space and then kind of convert that over into 3D space, right? Through using, I know we're familiar with the term push-pull, but we use the term extrusion, which is more of a technical term, more of an engineering term to say the word extrusion. Okay, so in Fusion, it's called extrusion. So we're kind of shedding away this idea of push-pull that we have in our minds from SketchUp. So I showed you how to create a 2D sketch and then extrude it into 3D space. And then we also went in and I created two holes on one of the surfaces. And I think the way I did it was I actually went back in the timeline to create the hole. So I edited my sketch. If you remember that we had a timeline, as I drew things and objects, it all showed up in my timeline. And I actually went back in my timeline and edited the sketch and then added the holes. So where I'm going to pick up today is I'm going to quickly draw what I drew yesterday. Okay, so I'll just quickly in 2 minutes, I'll draw what I drew yesterday. And then what I want to do is I want to take you through how to create, for one thing, how to create a sketch on a surface. So we know how to create a sketch on a plane, but how to create a sketch on a surface. And then I want to show you how to create new planes. So you can draw planes anywhere you want. So I'm going to show you 3 different tools today. I'm going to show you in the construct menu, I'm going to show you how to create an offset plane, a plane at an angle, and we're going to also do a mid plane. Okay, those are all planes that are very typical that often if you're designing anything, those are 3 planes that you really have to know how to use and use well. So those are the 3 planes we're going to go over today. And all while I'm showing you that, I'll be drawing different objects within those planes. Okay? Austin, do you want to just grab the door for me? Thanks. Okay, so let's start with where we left off yesterday. So I'm just going to quickly create a new sketch. Remember, this is just a recap of yesterday. Choose a plane. So I'll draw my top plane there. And I'm going to hit R on my keyboard for rectangle. And I'm going to draw a random rectangle. And you can see I can edit the dimensions right now. So I'm going to make this 50 millimeters tall. Hit tab. And let's make it 150 wide. Okay. And then do you remember I was speaking yesterday about the importance of our objects turning black, our lines turning black? If they're blue, it means you have not told Fusion everything you need to tell it about that object. So there's 2 things Fusion needs to know. It needs to know how long each line is supposed to be, and it needs to know where that object is supposed to be placed. Now, if you look at this, I've put how long the lines are supposed to be. I drew a rectangle and I gave it a length and a width, but I didn't tell it where it's supposed to be. I didn't tell Fusion where my rectangle should be. Or did I? Right? Because like really this shouldn't have turned black because I have not given it a location, this rectangle. Or did I? Did I give it a location? I actually did. Because I started my rectangle on my origin, Fusion knows exactly where in space I started that rectangle. Like I snapped it to that point, that origin. Therefore, Fusion knows what the location is. So that's why you see the lines all black. It means it's fully constrained. And now I'm going to hit E on my keyboard to extrude. It now takes me into a 3D workspace. And I have my extrude menu here. And I have how far of a distance I can extrude it here. So I'm going to extrude it up, I don't know, let's go 100 millimeters. So I start to pull it up, and then I just type 100 in this box, which is already highlighted, and I press enter. Okay, and there I have, rectangular prism. So now where this is going to differ from yesterday is yesterday I went back here and I edited the sketch to add circles. Well, this time I'm going to show you how you can create a sketch on a surface. So I could start, instead of editing that sketch, I could create a whole new sketch for my circles on this top surface here, and then just cut my holes down. So this is new. Yesterday I edited the sketch. Today I want to show you, one of the things I want to show you is how to create a sketch on a surface. So we're going to click on Create a Sketch. And look, this time instead of choosing one of my planes to draw on, I'm actually going to choose, look, I can actually choose any one of these surfaces as well. So that's the great thing about Fusion is not only can you sketch on just the planes that are given to you, but also on any surface that you create from a 3D object. So I'm going to create my holes up here. So I'm going to click on this surface. Instead of these planes, I'm clicking on this surface. And I'm going to hit C for circle. And I'm going to go through this kind of quick because we did it yesterday. And sure, I'll do these circles at 10 millimeters. Okay, it's blue, so I need to give it location. So I hit D on my keyboard or dimension, the menu up there. And I choose the center of my circle to the top of this line or to this edge. Sure, I'm happy with 25 millimeters, so I'll just click and hit enter. And now I choose the center of the circle to this edge, drag my mouse out or my cursor and do 25 millimeters there. I'm good with that. Then I showed you yesterday how to create a mirror of that circle on the other side. And what I did was I drew a mirror line in the middle. So I drew a line in the middle of this object because I know that if I use the mirror object, I have to tell Fusion where my mirror line is. So I use my line tool, L. Oh, sorry. Forgot to hit 25, enter. Okay. Now I use my line tool, L. And one thing that I did yesterday was I made sure that once I hit L, that I choose a construction line, which again is similar to your tape measure line in SketchUp. And you could draw this line anywhere as long as it's on the midpoint. So when that triangle pops up, it means I'm on the midpoint of this object, and I'm going to drag that down. And you could go past your object too, because it doesn't matter. It's just like a line that isn't part of your model. It's just a construction line. And then hit escape when you're done with that. And now you're ready to use your mirror tool. And actually, one thing that you got to do, and I make this mistake all the time, after you make a construction line, if you don't toggle it off, it always stays on. So you want to toggle it off after you're done making a construction line. And then you mirror. It says choose the object that you want to mirror. I want this. Now I want to choose the mirror line. So I click here to go into my mirror line section there. Click my mirror line. And there my other object shows up. Hit OK. I'm done this sketch. I go to finish sketch. I go back into 3D mode. And I hit E on my keyboard to extrude these holes. The first thing that it says is choose the profiles that you want to extrude. Well, I want to extrude this hole, and I want to extrude this hole. You can make multiple selections. You don't have to do these one at a time. And then drag this arrow down, and you could drag your arrow right through everybody, and it'll cut a hole right through. Or you could drag it however much you want, just show the direction, and then see where it says extent type. Just change it from distance to all, and it'll go only enough to go right through your entire body. Okay? And hit OK. So that's where we left off yesterday. All right? Now what I'm going to do is start to draw those three planes, or those three different types of planes, and we'll draw on them, and we'll figure out how to do that as well. Okay? So let's start with an easy one. Let's start with, I'm going to construct a midplane. So that means that I am going to draw some sort of feature in the middle of this body or this object. I'm going to draw a feature in the middle of it, right in the middle of the part. Okay? So watch. This is an interesting one. And you do use this quite a bit. So I'm going to select midplane. Now watch what happens. It says, okay, select where you want the midplane to be drawn. Well, let's say I want to draw something right in the middle, right cutting through the middle of this object. I want my plane to be in between this side, and I orbit around, hit escape, and this side. So watch, when I click this, look at how that plane shows up right in the middle of those two faces. So that's called a mid-plane, which makes sense. Okay? So now I can actually, when I go hit OK, and when I go to create a sketch, watch this. So now I want to create a new sketch. Now I have the option of choosing my original planes, my 3D planes here. I have the option of sketching on any surface. But now I also have the option to sketch on that new plane that I created called a midplane. So let's just mess around and let's just draw something on my midplane. So I'm just going to click here to draw on this midplane. Okay, now it's going to look like, oh, I must be drawing on one of the surfaces, but no, it's actually drawing in the middle of the part now. So whatever I draw, let's say I'll just pick something simple, a circle. I don't know, I'll start at the origin. I'll do a circle, I don't know, 20 millimeters sounds good. Okay? And watch, if I hit extrude or E, or I hit finish sketch, watch what happens. So I'm going to hit E. Look, it drew that circle in the middle of my body. Okay? So you may, this example, it's not really a real life example, but you never know. You may want to have some sort of feature in the middle of a, some sort of object that you're drawing, and in which case creating a midplane is super important. So I'm going to just pull this out. I don't know, like let's say you wanted to have a slot of some sort go right through to the end here. Okay, and again, you don't have to change. You can just drag it all the way out, or you can change this and say extend type all. Okay, and hit OK. And you can see now, like you don't see that circle there, but if I orbit around, or that hole, I orbit around, take a look, there is the hole drawn there. Okay, so keep that in mind, the ability to create a midplane. It's something that does come up often. In particular, when you're mirroring in 3D, you often have to create midplanes to find the middle of where you want an object to be in order to mirror that. Which I should mention, there's mirroring in 2D, okay, which we did with those holes. In that case, you have to create a mirror line when you mirror in 2D. But in 3D, I can also mirror. Look, I can create a mirror. And I'm in my 3D space right now, not in my 2D space. I can also create a mirror here. It's a little different in that instead of creating a mirror line, now you have to create a mirror plane. So you have to tell Fusion what is the plane in which you want to mirror on, because you're in 3D. So a line isn't good enough, right? So that's the difference between mirroring in 2D and mirroring in 3D. You could do it in both. You could do it in both, but you have to create a mirror plane instead of a line when you're in the 3D space. Okay, let's go back. So I'm just going to create two more planes for us. Let's do a plane at an angle. I like this one. And let me try to reset here back to my original view. So I'm just hitting this top right corner. That's my original view. So I'm going to go back to that, and I'm going to go construct. Let's do a plane at an angle. Okay, so then you always look at the screen to see what it's asking. It's saying, okay, you want to do a plane at an angle. Select the line that you want your plane to rotate about. So you, in this case, are selecting, you can select an edge as a line. Okay, you could select an axis as a line. Okay, or again, you could select any edge as the line. Okay, so I'm going to select, sure, I'll just select this edge. Okay, and now look what pops up. It says, okay, what angle do you want it to be? And I get this kind of turning wheel here, and I can select an angle. So let's go with, I don't know, 60 degrees sounds good. And I hit OK. And now take a look, I have a new plane there. And now you're like, oh, but you know what? Can we hide this plane? You can. So if you, because we use the construct menu. If you open now here the construction little tab here, you can see that plane 2, which is this angle plane that I just drew, is not hidden. I can always hide that, right? So you could take that off. If that's bothering you, you can always take that off, or you can keep showing it. I'm going to take it off right now. Okay. And let's go ahead and let's create a sketch on that plane. So I'm going to show you something neat. Okay, something really cool. So Let's create a sketch. Notice I can't see those planes right now, so I'm just going to toggle them back on just so that I can see them. And I'm going to now, so I went create a sketch. I'm now going to choose this plane to create a sketch on. So I click here. Okay. And let's pan up so I can see better. Okay, so now we're like viewing this at an angle here. Let me just, sorry. It's gonna do that again one more time, hold on. Just kind of frozen, hold on everybody. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to create a sketch here again. Okay, so I'm now going to draw, I'll do a circle again. So I'll hit circle, C, and I'm just going to draw it anywhere. I'll draw it right here. And again, I'll do a 20 millimeter circle. Okay, like that. Now it's blue because it wants me to give it a location. I'm going to just leave that right now. I just want to show you this feature. Okay, so don't worry about that. I mean, you could dimension now how far you want that circle to be and all that. So I'm going to hit E for extrude, or I can hit finish sketch, but I'm going to hit E. Okay. Now, let's orbit around. Let's see what we're working with here. Okay. Take a look. I'm going to now take this circle. I'm going to do two things with it. Okay. Hit escape. I'm going to drag, watch this, watch the screen. So I'm going to, right now, look at by default, when it goes red like that, it means it wants to cut a hole. Look at this right here. See how the operation says cut? When it's red, when that extrusion thing is red, it means that it wants to cut a hole. We can change that. Right now, I'll just cut a hole, okay? I'm going to cut. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to drag this all the way down through my part, okay? And I'll orbit around so we can kind of see what that looks like. Look at how it cut that hole on an angle. Do you see that? Okay, so it's cutting a hole on an angle through my part. Hit escape. But what if you don't want to cut? What if you just want like some sort of cylinder that goes on an angle touching your body? Right? You could do that so easily, and that's what I love about Fusion. Watch how easy it is. Instead of an operation of cut, I'm going to change it to, instead of extent type distance, I'm going to say that I want it to go to my object. So I don't want to specify distance, I just want it to go to an object. So I'm going to click to object, and now it's saying, look, this thing just popped up. It says, okay, well, select the object you want to extrude it to. Which object do you want it to touch? So I go over here, and I choose my object, this. Click. And that's it. And I hit OK. And now it did not cut a hole. Okay. I added an extra piece here. If I'm just going to turn off this plane, it's kind of in the way. And when I orbit around, you can see that I added a piece just that easily. I created an extrusion, and I changed the extent to go to my body. Okay, to my body. Instead of specifying a distance, I just said, okay, I just want this extrusion to go to my body. I don't know what the distance is. I just wanted to touch that body. And so that's what I did. Okay? So that's you can imagine when you have to draw things at angles, that's a super important tool to be able to use. Okay? Because there's a lot of times where you do have to draw. When you're designing products, there's a lot of things that need to be created at angles, and then they come down and they touch, you know, another part of your maybe assembly of some sort. So that's an important ability to do, right? Is to create planes at angles and then create extrusions from that. Okay, let's reset and go back. For whatever reason, this doesn't really want to go back to my... This happens sometimes in Fusion, by the way. Like, you hit escape and like this thing stops working for a while. I haven't figured out why that happens. I just think it glitches, and don't know why that is really happening. You can still orbit around. Okay, let's do one more, and then I'll leave you to it. Let's do one more. Let's go construct. This is probably the most important one. An offset plane. Okay, an offset plane. I really would like to go back to my home. Still frozen. All right, well, let's try it. Let's go construct offset plane. So what an offset plane does is you could create a plane offset from another one. So let's say you want to draw, let's say this. Let's go like this. So I went offset plane. Now it says, okay, choose the plane you want to offset from. Choose the plane you want to offset from. Well, I can choose either a plane to offset from, or I can choose a surface. For this particular example, I'll just orbit around and I'll just choose a plane. Okay. So I'll choose like this plane to offset from. So watch, I'll click here. Now it'll say, okay, how far away do you want to offset that plane? And so I'm just going to drag this out. And look, I can create a plane that is offset from this anywhere I want on this part. Anywhere I want. And I can go way out here. It doesn't matter. So an offset plane is super important to be able to, add to your product here. Is often you need to draw things, that is not exactly on one of the planes that are just there by default. You have to add your own plane in, and sometimes this is an important tool. Okay? So I'm going to offset a plane here and hit OK, and sure, 220 millimeters, whatever, and hit OK. So now this is one of my options now. When I go to create a sketch, I can now create a sketch on that offset plane as well, right? So you might be saying, okay, sir, like, how does that really play a role here? Well, let's try something. I'm going to use offset planes and I'm going to use that in combination with a tool called the loft tool. So I'm going to show you now how to use the loft tool and how you would use offsetting planes as kind of the basis for that. Okay, so that'll be the last thing I show you. So I'm going to start a new design. Okay, and I'm going to go to create. Actually, so if you can't see your planes here, it's because they're hidden right here. So just check off this eyeball there, or check it on, and you can see your planes. All right, so I'm going to create an offset plane right now. Okay, so I'm going to go to construct offset plane. And it's going to say, okay, which plane do you want to offset? This one. And I want to offset it, I don't know, let's go 250 millimeters. I'm going to go pretty big. Okay. I'm going to zoom out so I can see. There it is. Okay, so you can see that I created an offset plane from this bottom plane up there, 250 millimeters. Now watch this. I'm going to create a sketch here, and I want to create it on this plane right here right now. Okay, and I'm going to go circle. I'll draw a circle at any size, 150. Okay, and I'm going to finish that sketch. So currently I have a circle up here. I'm going to use the loft tool. Okay, I'm going to use the loft tool. So I'm going to turn, this is what the loft tool is. It turns like two shapes, it kind of combines them it like kind of transitions them nicely. Where I see this stuff used a lot, the loft, is in kind of HVAC ducts, I would say, right? You can sometimes see that, they use these types of designs. So, okay, so let's do it now. Another sketch. Watch. This will make sense to you in a second. But except now not up here, I want to do it down here on the plane right below it, right? The plane that I originally used as the basis for my offset. So I'm going to click on that one, and this time I'm going to draw let's draw you know what? I'll just do another circle. It doesn't have to be a square. I'll do like a bigger circle like that. Okay? And I'll hit finish. Notice they're blue right now. I don't care because I don't want it. I don't care that it's not fully constrained because I'm just showing you an example. The reason why it's blue is because I didn't give it a size. So I suppose I could give it a size. Just press D, click on the circle, and right now it's a diameter of 377. Let's do 350. Actually, yeah, 350 is good. Okay? Finish sketch. Now watch. Let's use the loft tool. Let's see how this works. Let's go to create, loft. Okay, so now it says, okay, choose your profiles that you want to do. Okay, so can I select this shape? Okay, that's my one. Can I select the other? That's my second one. Oh, I got an error there. Okay. There you go. Sorry, it's because I had selected the center of the circle instead of the actual inside the shape. And so there's your loft tool. You're happy with it. You click OK. And there you have, kind of another tool to put in kind of your tool belt of things that you can do and how you can loft different shapes. You can take two different shapes and kind of combine them as into one design. And so to do that though, the basis was using the offset plane tool, because I had to offset a plane, draw one shape on that plane, and then draw another shape on the plane that I originally used as my offset basis, right? And then I can do my loft. So hopefully that makes sense to you. To recap, I showed you how to create sketches on a surface, how to create sketches on a midplane, on an offset plane, and on an angled plane. Those are your three major types of planes that we're going to use throughout these tutorials, okay, and to be able to draw on. And then that is it for really this video. And after this, I think you'll be ready to start actually designing some different products, okay? But you do have to go through this tutorial and also the first tutorial first.